Hi, I want to welcome you to this edition of the dualcommissions.com Q&A video series. So here's a quick question for you. As a real estate professional, would you like to be able to be the realtor and the loan officer on the same transaction without there being any conflict of interest? That's what we're going to be talking about in this video. So let's get started. One of the most common questions that we get after we've explained to people how this works, right? You become an employee of the bank, and then you close the loan, and you don't have to get your own license because you're working under the bank's license. They say, hold on a minute, I'm going to be the agent and the loan officer on the same transaction. Isn't that a conflict of interest? That's the question, okay? Is it a conflict of interest? Here's the thing, it used to be a conflict. So what do I mean? Well, HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, right? For years had a rule that said a loan officer cannot earn multiple streams of income on the same FHA transaction. So if you earned a mortgage commission, you couldn't earn any other commission on the same transaction. Now it only applied to FHA. Why? Because they only govern FHA. I mean, HUD has nothing to do with conventional loans or VA or really any other type. But since they passed this rule on FHA, people outside of that looked and rightfully asked, well, hold on a minute. If HUD has a problem with it, why are FHA loans different from other loans? I mean, if that's a conflict, why isn't it a conflict everywhere? And for that reason, this was sort of painted with the same broad brush that this was a conflict of interest. Well, loan officers complained to HUD about this for years, and finally back in 2022, attorneys for the different groups sat down together. HUD asked, okay, so what's the problem here? The loan officers said, the problem is that you don't seem to mind if a real estate broker owns their own company. HUD replied, of course not. The loan officer side said, they can also own a title company. HUD replied, absolutely. The loan officer said, if they are enterprising, they can also own an insurance agency. HUD responded, yep. The loan officers continued, so on the same FHA transaction, they can earn a real estate commission, a title commission, an insurance commission, and any other kind of commission except for a mortgage commission. So why is that? HUD said, well, think about it. As loan officers, you're going to approve someone for a loan and then get paid for doing it? That's a clear conflict of interest. It's way too easy to manipulate that situation to work in your favor. The loan officers said, well, that would be a conflict, but we don't approve anyone for anything. All we do is help them apply for the loan. The approval is up to the underwriters and others. If we tried to influence the approval, we could potentially lose our license. So that shouldn't be held against us. Remarkably, HUD said, you're right. So on December 15th of 2022, they actually revised their conflict of interest rule. They narrowed the scope by removing loan officers from that definition. So they still have a conflict of interest rule, but now it only applies to underwriters, appraisers, inspectors, and engineers. Why? Because the work of these individuals has a direct bearing on whether or not that loan is approved. So someone cannot earn a real estate commission and also be the underwriter on the mortgage for that transaction or be the appraiser, etc. Now, except for USDA, which is a very narrow market segment, there's no legislative group or governing body that considers it to be a conflict of interest for someone to earn both a real estate commission and a mortgage commission on the same transaction as long as first, both services are legitimately provided, and second, that it is disclosed to the client. The disclosure essentially just states that the client is free to use anyone they would like in order to get their mortgage, and that if they do use their real estate agent, then the agent will be compensated on both sides of the table. So hey, if you've got more questions about this and you'd like to maybe chat about it, you can use this green QR code. You just scan that with your phone and it'll bring up our calendar and you can select a convenient time. We can have a conversation and answer your questions. Of course, if you feel like you've seen enough and you want to get started, just use this orange QR. Oh, and if you're viewing this on YouTube, please go ahead and give that like button a push, right? And also go ahead and subscribe, and that way you'll be the first to know when we drop a new video with other new ways that this program can help you build your business. Take care, and we'll see you on the next video.